Hi guys, and welcome back to the Big Sew Along. I'm Ginny, and today I cannot do much chatting because we are going to do what I'm calling a rough draft of our layer cake dress. So for any of you who are new here, I will put a picture here of the layer cake dress. This is a dress designed by Linda from the Slow Wardrobe. I will leave links to Linda's website and also her YouTube channel below, so you can see what we're talking about. Before we get into this draft, let me say a couple of things. First of all, a little disclaimer here. This is a rough draft because, first and foremost, I am not a pattern drafter. I am a home sewer. I have a fair amount of experience. I think I can do this, but if you've seen some of my other videos, you know that sometimes when I'm doing like a draft of something, it's a little rough and ready. So that's what we're working with today. Also, I just want to point out, I don't have this dress. I don't have any of Linda's garments. So I'm basing this pattern on what I can see from in pictures from her website and her YouTube channel. So if you guys think I've got it wrong, please leave me a message below. Let me know what you think I need to change. I would love to incorporate any new ideas. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but my neighbor has decided to start blowing his leaves. Of course. Anyways, what else? To do this draft, you're going to need a couple of things. You're going to need some paper, a pencil or pen, some tape, and you are also going to need a loose-fitting t-shirt, probably loose like this, not tight, but not super baggy either. Just probably yeah, I think this is about right. You are also going to need an A-line skirt pattern. If you don't have an A-line skirt pattern, you can use the waist down of a straight A-line dress pattern. You can use any A-line skirt pattern. If it has darts, it doesn't matter. If it requires a waistband and a zipper, that doesn't matter. We're not going to use those things. If it has darts or a zipper or whatever, you're just going to ignore those things. All we really want is the A-line shape from the side and the hem. Okay, I think that is it for the moment, so let's get to the tutorial and then I'll come back. Okay, to get started, I have my pattern paper here. I have a ruler, a pencil. I have an A-line skirt pattern. It's just one piece. And I am going to just measure this. Well, we'll get to that in a minute. Okay. One piece A-line skirt. If you have one that has a front and a back, it doesn't really matter. Pick one. Probably the back one, because we're going to want to add a little ease to it anyway. So we're going to put that aside for a minute. The other thing we have is our t-shirt. This is my t-shirt right here. And this is a loose-fitting t-shirt. It's not super loose, but it is loose. And you can see, hopefully here, I have marked right here where my bust line is. I have marked right here where my waistline is, and I have marked down here. Actually, I haven't marked it because this hem falls exactly at the widest point of my hips. If your shirt is longer or shorter, if your shirt is longer, just pull it down. It doesn't matter if it's too tight at your hips. We just need to know how far down they are from your waist. If your shirt is not long enough to get to the fullest part of your hips, just measure from take a tape measure, measure from your waist down to where you think is roughly the widest part of your hips, and we'll mark that instead, okay? So, we're going to measure our t-shirt at the bust line. We want it to have about 6 inches of ease at the bust line. So, this t-shirt measures 20 inches across, so the bust on this is 40 inches. My bust is 38 inches, so if I add 6 inches to 38, I come up with 44, which means I need to add 4 inches of ease to this, okay? So we're gonna fold this in half, like this. And it doesn't have to be perfect, just kind of in half. Okay, to add 4 inches, we're gonna take 4 and divide it by 4 because we're doing it in quarters. So in order to add 4 inches, I need to add 1 inch to this. So if you're adding 2 inches, you need to add a half an inch to this edge. If you're adding 6 inches, you need to add 1.5 inches, I think. A quarter of whatever it is you're adding is what we need here. So I am gonna add 1 inch to the side of my pattern. And I'm just gonna use this mark right here on my grid. And I'm gonna mark it all the way down. Now, we are going to put our t-shirt right up against that line, like that. And we're just going to double check our bust measurement now. If I measure from the edge of the paper, remember I'm an inch, my t-shirt's an inch away from the paper. So I'm gonna measure from the edge of the paper to the edge of my t-shirt, and that's 11 inches. 11 times 4 is 44. So that's exactly what I want. My waist is, let's say it's 10.5 times 4. So 10.5, that's 21. So my waist should be 42 inches, which is also really good, okay? Though you don't have to have, you just want to keep the ease to be about the same thing. 6 inches in the waist, 6 inches in the bust. We can always adjust it later. Now, what we're going to do, I hope you guys can see this. Can you see the top of my t-shirt? You can. Okay. I am just going to trace the neck of my t-shirt. And again, I'm not going to be super precise. I'm just tracing the back neckline. And then I'm gonna trace out the t-shirt sleeve like this. Actually, you know what? We don't need to do that. We're gonna trace out the side. And you can see it's a little bit curved here. We're just gonna kind of follow that curve just like that. And this t-shirt comes in a little and then goes back out. That is perfectly fine. Before we do anything else, we want to mark roughly our bust on our pattern here. That's going to be our bust. That's going to be our waist. And that's going to be our full hip. Okay, now up here at the sleeve, we want a sleeve that goes up and over. So all we're going to do, just going to extend this little line here out about another inch. So it looks like that. It's about it's about 2.5 inches from my underarm seam, but it's up a little bit, okay? Then I'm just going to draw a straight line. Just going to draw it straight up like this. Now, the other thing is we have this shoulder that slopes down. We don't want that. We want that to be straight also. So we're going to match our ruler to the edge, to the very point of our collar right here where our neckline starts. And we're going to draw a straight line straight over to this one we just drew, to this one right here. Hopefully you'll be able to see that. The other thing I'm going to do is I am, just in case we need it, and I don't know that we will, but in case we do, I'm going to make a little mark right here at the top of my shoulder seam, just so we have that in case we need it later. Okay, that's pretty much our top portion done. I am going to get rid of this these lines I am going to connect so we have solid lines across the page. It'll just be easier. Okay, now the next thing is to work with our skirt. So let's get our skirt pattern out here. We already know that this is wide enough because we measured it. And we came up with, I think my waist is 32. Gosh, I'm not really sure, but let's go with that anyway. 32. And this is going to be 43 inches. Let's see, I might have that wrong. Oh no, I did, 43 inches. So that's plenty of ease in the waist, okay? So now I'm going to put my skirt pattern on here. I'm going to lay it up to the edge of my paper and see if it matches that waistline. And you can see my skirt is too big here, which is fine. It's totally fine if it's too big. You don't want it to be too small. If this is smaller than this, if the waistline of your skirt is smaller than this waistline here, then just do the same thing we did with our t-shirt. Move it out an inch or move it out 2 inches, whatever it takes to get this distance the same as the waist that you need it, your final waist measurement. On this one, because it's too big, I'm just going to push it over this way so that it matches up with this. I hope you guys can see that my paper is hanging off the edge on this side. We're just going to ignore that. Now, alternatively, if you want it to be more full in the skirt, and this does look like a pretty full skirt, you could just match it up. If it's too big, match it up over here. Okay, so I don't want to cut this pattern, so what I'm going to do is just trace my A-line skirt out. And this skirt happens to be the right length for my final length measurement on this dress. But just be sure that you alter your skirt pattern first so it's the right length. Okay, so this is our skirt. Okay, now I can get rid of this piece. And let's just make this look as normal as we can. The first thing I'm going to do is go up here to this armpit, and you see how it's a little wonky? Let's just make that a nicer curve. So it'll be like that. That looks better. Let's get rid of that so we don't get confused. And this can come out like that. Okay, so just make sure you don't have any points here. Make sure it's a nice smooth seam. This is essentially our pattern. Now you can see I have left my neckline is pretty high. I'm going to go ahead and fix this a little bit. I want it to come down maybe half an inch. Okay, now before we do anything else, this dress has a tulip hem. It means it sort of comes in at the bottom. So I don't really know how far up to make this, but I'm going to go down here to the bottom of my skirt, and I am going to guess, I'm going to say 10 inches. And I'm going to cut 10 inches off the bottom of my skirt. And I'm going to do that by lining up my ruler like this and just going all the way across. Okay, so this is my cut line. Pretty good. All right, so let's cut this out. Okay, now I know you guys are freaking out because I didn't, yeah, I'm sure you're freaking out, because I didn't add seam allowances, and there's a reason for that. We're still not done cutting this up. So we're going to finish cutting it up, and then we will add our seam allowances. So we're going to cut this open here, and we're going to flip this piece, this bottom hem piece, upside down. So it looks like this. And we are going to tape those together so that the front is still a straight line. It's okay if you overlap a little, like in the center. You can see here I've overlapped a little. That's fine. Okay, then we're going to take our ruler, and you can do a couple of things. We want this, we want these two to meet right about here, right between the two. But this one's obviously way over here. You can add some more paper and taper this out a little bit, or you can cut this line, just add this line like this and taper this one in. I feel like if we taper this one in, we're losing some of our tulip edge. So I'm going to add a little more paper here and taper this one out. I'm going to trace my original side of my dress here. This is the hem. This is where the two pieces overlap. This is the other piece that we laid down. And it goes down this way. Okay? I hope that's clear. Alright, so now all I'm going to do is I'm going to find a nice angle. I want this to be this line. I'm just going to continue straight up until I meet this line right here. Okay? And then this one, I'm going to taper it out until it meets somewhere nice. Like that looks like a pretty nice straight line. So we're just going to do it like that. Okay? Now, I'm going to cut this extra paper off. Okay. Now the only thing is, we probably don't want, we're not quite done cutting this yet, we probably don't want a point here. So, I'm actually just going to make that a nice little curve. And we can cut that off like that. Alright, so hopefully we still get enough of our lantern shape there. It looks like we might. I'm going to have to figure that out in a minute. Okay. Then, the next thing we're going to do is create our side panels. And I think if you're going directly across the bust, it's probably going to be about 6 inches in from the side seam. So, but that seems a little too far over for me. So I'm just going to, I mean, we're just playing, right? So I'm going to start mine. That's probably too far the other way. I'm going to put my mark 5 inches from the side seam at the, right at the, pretty much the bust line. Okay, like that. And now, I'm going to cut a straight line all the way down on that line. Let's make sure we're straight there. No. Okay. Now the last thing we need to deal with is our sleeve. This does have like a longer sleeve. So I think, oops, what we're going to do is, let's measure from our shoulder, from the edge of our shoulder to the length we want our sleeve to be. And I want mine to be just below my elbow. Mine needs to be 15 inches from this mark, so I'm glad we put that there. What we have here is I'm gonna call that 5 inches. So I need to make a sleeve that's 10 inches long, and it needs to be 8 inches wide where it attaches to the sleeve. Okay, so this is gonna be our sleeve piece. 8 inches wide by 10 long. It looks like I cut an 8 by 8 square, so I guess my sleeve is going to be 8 inches long. But what we want to do is measure the circumference of our arm at this edge. And on me, that is about 10 inches. But let's add 3 inches for ease. So mine's going to be 13 inches at this edge, which means that I need to measure 7.5 inches down. Nope, 6.5 inches down from this edge and make a mark. 6.5 because we're doubling this. We're going to cut this sleeve on the fold. So now this is where our sleeve is going to end. And we're just going to taper it slightly. Something like that looks good. You can see I'm going to end up cutting a little bit off my underarm here too, and that is perfectly fine. Okay, let's cut this off. Make sure that still fits. That looks good. Now, we can cut this piece off. So this is our sleeve. We need to add seam allowances to this edge. This is the edge that gets attached to the body. Let's mark that. We need to add seam allowances to this edge, and a hem allowance to this, whatever you want it to be. On this piece, we're going to cut up straight up this line that we made. And now we are going to cut, this will be the center front and center back. So that will be a fold. This right here, where our neckline is, this is also going to be on a fold. And we'll go over that when we get to putting this together. This piece, the side panel, is not cut on a fold. So you need to add seam allowances here, to this edge, to this shoulder, up here, to this sleeve, and to this side. Also, we need to add a hem allowance both to this piece and also to our, I forgot to say, on the center piece, we need to add a seam allowance to this side and also a hem allowance at the bottom. And then we can start putting this guy together. We do need a pocket. I'm just going to make a big sort of semicircle patch pocket. Alright guys, so that is my rough draft of the Slow wardrobe. I think it's called the Linen Love Dress. Like I said earlier, I will leave links to the Slow Wardrobe website below, and I will also leave links to Linda's YouTube channel below. Again, if you guys have any suggestions on how to alter this pattern or how to do it differently, please leave me comments below. I am completely open to suggestions. Like I said, I don't have one of these dresses, so I don't really know. You'll notice that I did not do the front neckline in this tutorial. That's because I am going to wait until I make up my muslin. I'm going to put it on and figure out where I want my neckline to be. And I will show you how I do that in next week's video, when we will also sew this up. So until then, you guys, I hope everybody has a wonderful week. I thank you all so much for stopping by, for choosing to spend some time with me every week. It means the world to me. And that's it. Happy sewing, everybody.